Anne Hathaway, when the world hates you for being too perfect.
Nani?
何？お前はもう死んでいる。
Have you ever imagined that a beautiful, talented woman, with no scandals, graceful in every speech, an Oscar winner, could become the target of an entire wave of online hate? Not because she did something wrong, but simply because she was too perfect. As ironic as it sounds, this actually happened to Anne Hathaway, one of the most hardworking and gifted actresses in Hollywood. And this story forces us to ask a difficult question. Is society punishing women for doing everything right? The princess of everyone's dreams, Anne Hathaway was born into an artistic family in Brooklyn, New York. Believe it or not, she once dreamed of becoming a nun. Yes, really. A quiet life devoted to faith. But the stage lights called her name, and fortunately, she answered. In 2001, the world suddenly discovered Anne Hathaway through the film The Princess Diaries. With her frizzy hair, oversized glasses, and clumsy charm, Mia Thermopolis captured the hearts of millions around the globe. It wasn't just Anne's first major role. It was her sunny hello to the world, full of promise and light. From that moment on, Anne Hathaway became a symbol of childhood nostalgia for an entire generation. Her name became synonymous with sweetness, likability, and innocence. She was the kind of princess everyone wanted to be, and the kind every mother wanted their daughter to admire. But Anne, like any true princess, wasn't content to stay in a fairy tale forever. She stepped out of her comfort zone, taking on bolder, more challenging, more grown-up roles. From the ambitious assistant in The Devil Wears Prada, struggling between career and conscience, to the heart-wrenching Fantine in Les Miserables, Anne kept reinventing herself, proving that behind her delicate beauty was a deep, powerful actress, unafraid to sacrifice everything for a role. Fully devoted to the role. After years of playing sweet and charming roles, Anne Hathaway decided to challenge herself with something completely different, something raw, painful, and heartbreaking. That role was Fantine, the tragic figure from the timeless classic Les Miserables. Fantine is not an easy character to play. She's a symbol of suffering, a single mother abandoned by society, forced to sell her hair, her teeth, and eventually her body just to feed her child. She isn't just a character. She represents millions of invisible women in history, women crushed by poverty and injustice. To fully embody Fantine, Anne made an extraordinary decision. She lost more than 11 kilograms in just a few weeks, surviving on barely any food. She shaved her head on camera, an act not just for the visual impact, but a true sacrifice of pride, beauty, and public image. Throughout filming, Anne lived in a state of near physical and emotional collapse. She later shared that in order to portray Fantine's despair, she had to push herself to the edge, mentally and physically, living with that pain day after day. The tears you see on screen weren't just acting, they were real, born from sleepless nights, freezing shoots, and a heart fully immersed in the story. That performance didn't just earn her an Oscar, it silenced the world. People no longer saw Anne as the sweet, perfect princess. They saw a true artist, one willing to risk it all, to suffer for her craft, to tell a story that mattered. When being too perfect becomes a problem, you'd think that after winning an Oscar, the highest honor in acting, Anne Hathaway would be celebrated by the world, applauded, admired. But strangely, the opposite happened. Right after her big win, a wave began to spread across social media, a movement known as Hatha-hate. Yes, people started to openly hate Anne Hathaway, not because she did something wrong, not because of a scandal, but simply because she was too perfect. Her way of speaking was too polished. Her smile always bright and camera-ready, her mannerisms always graceful, always correct. It made people feel like she was performing all the time, even off-screen. She was compared to Jennifer Lawrence, quirky, spontaneous, a bit clumsy, but effortlessly real. And suddenly Anne was labeled as fake, over-rehearsed, too much of a teacher's pet. People didn't want flawless. They wanted messy. They wanted relatable. And in that moment, Anne Hathaway became the target of criticism, not for who she was, but for what she wasn't. She was hated for being too polished, too proper, too professional, too uncool for the internet's ever-shifting standards. A strange, bitter irony. A woman who was talented, intelligent, scandal-free, and genuinely kind was torn down simply because she wasn't chaotic enough for the crowd. In this era, if you don't perform imperfection, people think you're hiding something. Why do people hate perfection? Anne Hathaway's story isn't just about a celebrity. It's a mirror, a reflection of how modern society treats those who seem too perfect. We live in an era that praises honesty, spontaneity, even a little bit of mess. People crave the raw, the unscripted, the awkward laugh, the spilled coffee, the stumble on stage, because that feels real. So when someone appears too polished, too articulate, too graceful, we start to question them. And this pressure is even harsher for women. A beautiful woman, intelligent, well-spoken, kind, scandal-free, successful, elegant. To many, that combination feels unbelievable, almost offensive. Not because she did anything wrong, but because she left no cracks for others to hide in. Anne Hathaway, so poised, so composed, so extraordinarily put together, became a mirror many didn't want to look into. Because beside her, some people felt not good enough, not disciplined enough, not perfect enough. And when people feel that way, they don't always choose admiration. They choose resentment. It's a cruel paradox. In a world that tells women to shine, the moment one of them actually does, she's punished for shining too brightly. Anne's brilliant and quiet comeback. Faced with an unfair and irrational wave of criticism, Anne Hathaway didn't choose outrage. She didn't go online to argue. She didn't post angry statements. She didn't cry on talk shows or beg for sympathy. Instead, she chose a far more powerful response. Silence. She stepped away. She got married, became a mother, lived quietly, privately, far from the spotlight. And then, she came back. Not with drama, not with a speech, but with grace, with calm, with no need to explain. Anne didn't shout, "I deserve your love." She simply did what she does best. She acted. She returned with roles that spoke louder than any words. In Interstellar, she portrayed a brilliant scientist confronting the cold void of space. In The Intern, she became a modern CEO, balancing strength with vulnerability. And in Ocean's 8, she surprised everyone by poking fun at the very image of the overly perfect actress people once mocked her for. Anne continued working on high-quality films, blockbusters, indie projects, dramatic roles, comedic roles. But this time, she wasn't trying to win the crowd. She was working for the love of the craft. Not for approval, not for applause, and that was her loudest answer. No arguing, no justifying, just quiet excellence. Anne Hathaway used her silence, her strength, and her undeniable talent to say one simple thing. I don't need fake love. I just need to do honest work. When you're hated for doing nothing wrong, Anne Hathaway was never one to chase scandal. She never sought fame through drama or controversy. She didn't scream for attention. She didn't play games. And maybe that's why she understands better than anyone what it feels like to be hated, for no reason at all, to be criticized, just for doing everything right. She once said something simple, yet deeply powerful. I used to want everyone to like me. But then I learned, you can't control how others feel. All you can do is be true to yourself. And that's exactly how she chose to live. Even when the world turned its back on her, Anne stood her ground. She didn't play the victim. She didn't beg for sympathy. She simply kept working, with grace, discipline, and an honest love for her craft. And that is why, to this day, she remains one of the most respected actresses in Hollywood. Because Anne Hathaway never needed to be what the world wanted. She just needed to be who she truly is. And that was today's story. If you found it interesting, feel free to give me a like and share. It really helps me stay motivated to make more videos like this. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of the upcoming stories. And if there's a celebrity or public figure you'd love to hear a story about, just drop their name in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. See you again in the next story.